Hello, Spiffers. Welcome back. It's good to see all of you. It's Jamie Woodhouse again here from SaaS Educators for your 5-minute Spiff Salesforce Spiff tip of the week. We're getting close to the Christmas time. It's the week before Christmas, so a Merry Christmas to all of those who celebrate Christmas. And I'll try to keep this one short and sweet. We're continuing on with our discussion and introduction into Spiff Designer. And we're going to start by building our very first, very simple payout rule today so that hopefully you can see how Spiff Designer kind of works to create a brand new payout rule. And like I said, it's going to be really simple today. So let's jump into Spiff. So once we first log into Spiff, we go and click in Designer up at the top here. And I'm going to start by creating a brand new plan. I know I've done this in one of my other videos, but just want to get a little bit kind of start to finish with creating a new plan with a new payout rule. So I click on these 3 dots just to the right of the search bar. And this is where I can choose to set up a new plan. I'm just going to call this one my YouTube example plan. So I can rename that. The very first thing that I want to do is I want to do these plan assignments. The first thing it kind of prompts you to do is it's like, okay, great. You've got a plan. Now what do you want to do? Do you want to create a worksheet or a data sheet? And that's kind of how you get started, is by choosing one of these two. And that's how you kind of start your new payout rule. But I want to make sure and assign some people first so that I can kind of test out the data, make sure that it's all working and looking how I want it to. So I'm going to go to my plan assignments. I'm going to assign some users. I'm just going to choose Ava Sasna and Chloe because we always pick on them in this test environment. All right. So I select Chloe. I assign these users. Again, I always recommend using effective dating, but in our quick example, we're just going to keep those open and blank. And so we have our users on our plan. That's kind of the first 2 things. Create the plan, assign some users, then we can go ahead and get started. Now, remember from our discussion last week that we kind of introduced data sheets and worksheets. I was going to bring up the PowerPoint that I used, but if you need a refresher on that, I have a link in the description below that kind of talks about the basis of what is the difference between a worksheet and a data sheet. But if you remember, the data sheet is used so that you can have a line-by-line breakdown of commissions, meaning that I'm going to have every opportunity or every deal that is going to get a commission, and I can set that up with the data sheet. Whereas a worksheet is just the lump sum, meaning that it's just a summary level. This is the one thing that we're going to give that kind of sums up or totals the actual commission. And so because of that, because data sheets are line by line and worksheets are lump sum, which one do you think that Spiff recommends using as much as you can? Well, we recommend using a data sheet because data sheets have more information. You can give more information to your reps on statements, and it will give a nice breakdown so they can drill into and see the data for each of the deals that they're getting commissions for, builds that transparency, and tells the right story to give them as much information as they can right at their fingertips. And that's really the goal of Spiff, is to give as much information as we can to the sales reps to help them understand their commissions better and have some transparency in there. So we always recommend starting with the data sheet if you can. If there's a payout rule that doesn't break it down per deal and have a commission per deal, then of course you have worksheets. But usually it's a combination of both. We get some data sheet values as well as some worksheet summary calculations that we want to display on the statement to tell the right story. And so we give you kind of options to do both. But what we're going to do today is we're just going to focus on data sheets. This is what we recommend using. And so let's just create a brand new data sheet. So we're going to go ahead and create a data sheet. It's going to create a data sheet over on the left-hand side where we can name this however we want to name it. And then it also kind of lets us know this is an empty data sheet, so we need to select which object we're going to be pulling the data from. So let's first start by just naming our data sheet. Now, there's a lot of different best practices. It really is up to you how you want to name your data sheets. For me, it comes down to I like to have a different data sheet per payout rule. Just makes it simpler in my mind. So for each payout rule, I'm going to have a different data sheet. That way I kind of keep it clear in my head. It does make it so that I have more data sheets than maybe I could if I wanted to consolidate some things. But that's just the method that I like doing it. So I just like calling this one, I'm going to call this my line by line example. Oh, I can't do spaces. And then I just put data sheet on there. It's a little redundant because you should know by the icon that's on there that it's a data sheet if I hover over that. But I just do that for clarification's sake. Once I've got that named, now I go ahead and choose the data filter. That's another link that I have in the description of this YouTube video is back to our data filter introduction. You do have to have the data filter built first of what invoices or what opportunities, what deals you want to actually pay commissions on. So I'm going to choose my opportunity object. And I'm going to choose my closed by rep in period. A quick recap of what we did with this closed by rep in period is it's just all the closed won opportunities that were closed in whatever period I have selected. I'm going to change this to October so that I can kind of see some more data. I know that Ava's got more deals that she closed in October. So it gives me a breakdown of what the filter was and how I built it. I can actually click into these if I want to go back to my data filters and see how they were created. But I know this filter gives me what I want, and so I'm going to get started. Now, this is usually the trickiest part. Well, when you get started is, all right, I selected my filter. What does this show me here? I've got a bunch of weird opportunity IDs that are unique identifiers. How is this helpful? Well, the very next step that you want to do every time you create a new data sheet is to add some data so that you, as an admin, kind of know a little bit more about what you're going to be paying commissions on. So for the cases that I always use, I always start my data sheets and I add the deal name for all the deals that are coming across. This is just pulling from the data we're syncing from Salesforce. So I have my deal names. I have my close dates because I want to make sure that it's actually in the groupings. So when I'm looking in October, it's all the deals that were closed in October. November, it's for November. Helps me double check my data, make sure I'm looking at the right stuff. And then finally, I always like to put in, what am I going to pay commissions on? Now, in this example, I'm not going to actually do a percentage commission, even though I probably should because it's pretty easy to be able to do that. But I'm going to keep this even simpler. But in our examples, we have data that's called ARR that we always use in our examples of this is what the annual recurring revenue of each deal that we close, and that's what we're going to pay commissions on. So every time I create a new data sheet, I just get my deal name, my close date, my ARR, so that I at least kind of know a little bit about the deals that I'm paying on. So as an admin, I understand and kind of know as I'm building out my data sheet and my commissions, if it's accurate and if it's the data that I'm looking for. You can definitely add any more data that you want, but I'm just going to keep it this simple. All right. Now, this is where I can actually start really getting complicated to build out a real complex mission. And most of your commission plans in real life are going to be way, way more complicated than this, but we're keeping it simple, which is I'm just going to say I'm going to pay $100 to Ava or Chloe for every deal that they closed. So all I want to do is I want to create a new field. When I click on the plus sign here, it says, okay, what new field do you want to create? I can either search for an existing field like you saw when we were bringing in the other data elements, but I'm going to create a new commission. I'm just going to call this my line by line. Notice that I've got some in my system already. Example. So I usually like naming it the name that I am going to name the payout rule so that I know which commission it's for. So line by line example commission. That will create a brand new field that I can enter whatever data I want into here. And I'm just going to put in $100. When I put in $100, it just puts in that $100 for each and every deal. So that I can see I've got these 12 deals in October for Ava. In November, I've got 6. It's just giving me $100 per line. Now, I was wondering if I should show you this or not because I'm a visual person. So I like to be able to see right here as I'm building what my totals are going to be, but this is not something you have to do. From here, we could actually just create our payout rule and be done with it. But I'm just going to add a little trick for you is that if I want to visually see right here from the data sheet a sum of all of these, I can go ahead and just add this down at the bottom. A nice little summary field. When I click on add field, these are the different options that I have to be able to kind of aggregate the data that I'm looking for. And I just want to sum everything. And so it'll sum it up for me. October, it's 1,200. November, 600. December, 600 as well. When I go to Chloe, it's 300. So it's because we built our data filter to go by rep as well as by the period, these toggles will actually work and allow me to build out this payout rule. Now, the only real tricky thing with when you're building the summary fields is if you ever want to reference this summary field, I would rename it. It gives it a generic field name, field 11, because that's my next one that's available. I can keep it generic if I'm never really going to use this anywhere. I just want to view it for myself as an admin. But I just create in my own mind, every time I create a summary calculation, even on a data sheet, I'm just going to name it what it is so that I keep them organized. So I can either double click up here with this field highlighted, or where it brings up the field 11, I can double click there. And I'm just going to call this line by line example commission sum. Now, some of you might be going, well, that's a lot of words here. I like to be as clear as I can when I'm creating these fields so that I can leverage these in the future if I want to. And so I know that my line by line commissions are giving $100 per deal that is closed. And so this is just going to sum it up. And I can use this summary if I want to. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to create my payout rule from here. I've got the data that I want. I've got the commissions that I want to pay on. So the last step that I have is to actually create this payout rule. So I'm going to go ahead and hit create payout rule. I want to make sure that I have my line by line example commission, the line by line commission itself highlighted. Notice how I clicked there instead of the sum. I could honestly create the payout rule from either way that I want to, but if I do it within the data sheet, it's going to give me more data on the statement, where if I just chose this sum, it's just going to give me the sum and that's it. So I always like using the data sheet. It's the only drawback with having your sums or your summary calculations within the data sheet is if you create it from here, it's going to treat it like a lump sum rule, even though you're building it from a data sheet. So just be careful with that. I always like building the payout rules from the actual data sheet field that I created. All right. All I have to do now is click on the create payout rule on the right. It's going to say this is going to be my payout rule name. I'm just going to add some spaces because this is how it's going to show up to my reps. So I want it to be display friendly. And then I can effective date it as well. It knows that I created my data sheet in my YouTube example plan. And so that's where it defaults. But I can actually choose any of the plans to add it to from here. Again, effective dating is smart. You want to start it at a certain time so it goes live at a certain time. It can be in the future, and then effective date until close it when you're done with that payout rule. But I'm just keeping it blank, and I can go ahead and click on create. All right. All that does from this screen here at the data sheet is it puts this purple $sign on that field that we created. And it's just letting us know that this field is being referenced by in one of my payout rules. So it doesn't look like it did anything, but it actually did it behind the scenes. Now, if I actually go back to my YouTube example plan on the left-hand side, now I can see when I click on my plan, instead of it saying we don't have anything here, let's get started with the worksheet or a data sheet, it now gives me my payout rule name, line by line example with that grand total for my different individuals. And if you remember the numbers, it looks like that it's doing just fine and calculating just great. Once you actually have that payout rule created, instead of having to remember, okay, this is the data sheet where I created it. If I need to make tweaks to it, you can actually just hover over the dollar amount and it says, okay, this is getting pulled from the line by line example data sheet. And I'm just noticing that I misspelled example. So I'd want to probably update that. But that there's a field called line by line commission that it's adding up to give me this information. I can click on that. It takes me right to it. And I can make edits however I want to. So hopefully that gives you kind of a good introduction, a real basic introduction of how do I get started building a plan and building my first payout rule using a data sheet within Spiff. If I go ahead and actually calculate statements here so that I can actually create a statement for this new payout rule that I have, and then I exit Designer, now I can go to, let's go to October because I like those numbers. I can go to October for Ava Sasna. Notice now she's on the Spiff training plan that she can see and has commissions there. There's the YouTube example plan. I didn't mention this, but it is hidden from the rep. But as an admin, you have access to that since it's brand new. I can go ahead and just view that plan, and I'll be able to have kind of my starting point with the statement. And I can see the line by line example and the commissions per deal. Future topic, just to give you a little teaser, is we're going to get into, okay, now that you've created a payout rule, how do you edit the statement to make it look nice and to make it readable and tell the right story is how I say it. But this is kind of how it starts us out and to be able to use that. So hopefully that helps introduce a very simple method of, okay, I'm just going to give them $100 per deal that they closed. How do I do that in a data sheet? Next week, we'll jump into worksheets and how you can use a worksheet to do the same thing. And just how it differs when you're doing it as a lump sum versus a line by line. Then we'll get into statements and designing and a lot of different things. So more to come. Hope you're all enjoying your holiday season, and I'll see you again next week. Thanks, everybody. Oh, got to plug myself. I'm always bad at plugging myself for some reason. Go to SaaSeducators.com. The link is in the description of the video to check out dates where I'm coming to a city near you. I do these 3-day boot camps for Spiff admins, where I give you a test environment that you can play around in and not worry about messing around in your live system, where we can go through these exercises together. You can build with us and as a class, and it's really great. And it's a great way for people to learn Spiff, Salesforce Spiff. It's something that we did in the old days with Spiff when I was actually working at Spiff headquarters, but wanted to take it and continue on with it because I just enjoy it so much. And I think it's a great way for people to quickly learn Spiff and become a Spiff expert within a 3-day period instead of having to wait for a lot of training and a lot of different ways of doing it. It's a great way to do it. So check out SaaSeducators.com, see what cities I'm coming to. Let me know if there's a city that you're in that I'm not coming to and that you're interested. I'll do my best that I can to come close so that you don't have to do very many expenses to come and enjoy these classes and these boot camps. Merry Christmas, everybody. We'll see you next week. We're getting close to 2026. It's crazy. Have a great one.